Good evening, families. My name is Heather Deer, and I am the Interim Director of Parent and Family Programs here at William & Mary. Thank you so much for joining us this evening for our second webinar in our Fall Parent and Family Programs webinar series. I'm excited to be talking a little bit about resources for academic success this evening. We are approaching and are in the midst of midterms here at William & Mary, so this might be a conversation that you're having with your students. Thought it might be appropriate for this time and way ahead of final exams. So thrilled to have a representative from Academic Enrichment Programs with us this evening to talk about resources available to students. As a reminder, we'll have a few moments at the end of the program to ask questions and get those questions answered. We will do so using the Q&A feature here in Zoom. So at this time, I am going to turn it over to Claire.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Heather. Give me 1 second, everybody, while I share my screen. Alrighty. Heather, can you give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen? Yes, great. Okay. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here with us this evening. I'm so grateful that you are all taking the time out of your busy week to hear about the kinds of academic resources that we've got for students here. Like Heather said, my name is Claire Forbes. I am not related to Forbes magazine. I sometimes get questions about that. And I am the Assistant Director of Academic Enrichment Programs here at William & Mary. All right, so I think it's helpful for you and for your students to know sort of where Academic Enrichment Programs lives in the William & Mary verse, because I think it's helpful to know who I am able to easily connect students to outside of academic resources. So Academic Enrichment Programs is part of the Dean of Students Office, and together with the Dean of Students Office, the Center for Student Diversity, and the Haven, we comprise the Student Success thematic area here at William & Mary. So within the Dean of Students Office, I work directly alongside community values and restorative practices, care support services, enrollment support services, parent and family programs, which I know you are all very familiar with, student accessibility services, and then there is us in academic enrichment programs. So it's very easy for me to connect students to any of these resources, but also a multitude of resources across campus. And I will talk more about those things a little bit later on this evening. So what does Academic Enrichment Programs actually do? Our goal is to guide students to the completion of their academic goals by creating an accessible, responsive, constructive, learner-centered space for students to become active, independent, and confident learners. We do this by helping students develop academic skills and strategies, strengthen personal responsibility, and promote an understanding of both university culture and effective decision-making. So these are sort of our mission and our guiding principles, and I'm going to tell you what this looks like on the ground too. But first, I want you to know who our staff is, because it's not just me, thank goodness. We are led by the wonderful Dean Wilmarie Rodriguez for our Director of Academic Enrichment Programs. I also work alongside Armand Jones, our graduate intern. Armand is in the Higher Education Master's Program at the School of Education, and we are also supported by the wonderful Colleen Burke as our Administrative Coordinator. So there's a whole team of people behind Academic Enrichment Programs and behind the TutorZone. All of us are available to meet with students for a variety of different needs. And I also like taking a moment to let you all know sort of why I enjoy my job and why it matters to me that I'm able to help students. I sort of grew up in higher education is the joke / kind of lame story that I tell students. And what I mean by that is both of my parents were professors, and I say were because they're both retired now. But I grew up on college campuses across a couple of different states. And because of that, I was able to learn so much information about college and about what it took to be a college student before I even chose where I was going to go to school. And that is really helpful information that not everybody has before they come to college. I hear from students time and time again that they feel like they can't ask their professor for help, that they don't know how to navigate this confusing process. And because I grew up with professors and because I grew up knowing graduate students, I always knew that there were people out there who wanted to do what they could to help me at any different college institution that I went to. And that was just a really good feeling. And even when I really did struggle in college, because I did, I'm sure many of you did here as well. And I know a bunch of William & Mary students struggle academically in a variety of ways. But when I struggled, I knew who to ask for help and I knew how to ask for that help. So I always tell students there's no such thing as a dumb question. If you have a question about anything going on at William & Mary, I want you to be able to ask me, even if it's just, hey, Claire, I don't know who to ask this person, this question to, I don't really know where to reach out to. I'm going to help you get to where you're going. So that is me. That is why I enjoy my job. So what do we do in academic enrichment programs? We oversee different academic statuses as well as the continuance process, and I'm going to explain what that is. We also do academic intervention programs. I oversee the TutorZone, as you probably guessed by the title of this presentation. We offer individual consultations for students. We also offer time management, different variety of opportunities, as well as information about strategic learning. The Academic Enrichment Programs office is located in Campus Center, which is in this photograph that you see here. That being said, the TutorZone and TutorZone programs are run out of the TutorZone, which is on the first floor of SWEM Library on the other side of campus. This overview of our services here also sort of serves as an overview of what I'm going to be talking about for the rest of our time together this evening. So to get us started, what do I mean by continuance standards? I'm not going to go too into the weeds with this, but I think it is helpful for students and for their families to know what the bare minimum expectations are of all William and Mary students. So if you just do a Google search for William and Mary continuance requirements, you will find a table that looks like this. And I'm going to explain what this means. So continuance standards exists at William and Mary as a check and balance system to make sure that students are making progress towards their degrees. Because we want students to be amassing more credits and increasing their GPA to make sure they're able to complete their degree, whatever degree they're here for, within the allotted amount of time. So along the way, we have continuance standards. And again, these are the minimum expectations. And the way you read this chart is after your first semester at William and Mary, your William and Mary cumulative GPA should be a 1.7, and you should have achieved a total of 9 William and Mary cumulative credits. You can see this goes up. So if I skip ahead to the 4th semester, at the end of your 4th semester at William and Mary, your cumulative GPA should be a 2.0, and you should have amassed a total of 48 William and Mary credits. Now, this is just the bare minimum standards. This does not have the same thing to do in terms of graduation requirements and call classes and electives and major requirements. This is just bare bones, William and Mary classes, William and Mary GPA. Transfer credits like AP or IB credit or credits from another higher education institution, those do count towards graduation, but this is just focusing on William and Mary credits. And you will see it goes up to a total of 10 semesters because there is a rule in the academic policies about completing your degree within 10 semesters, and it takes 120 credits in order to complete your bachelor's degree. And so that is why it steps up to that as well. When students fall short of these standards, these minimum requirements, they get placed on either academic probation or academic warning. If you fall short of the cumulative GPA or the cumulative credit minimum, you get placed on academic probation, which does not happen to that many William and Mary students. But in case it does happen to your student, I want you to know that we have resources and intervention programs available to support those students. We do that through academic enrichment programs. Our main program is the Aspire program, and that is for students on academic probation. We also started new about a year ago, the Connect program, which is for students on academic warning. Academic warning is informal. If a student gets less than a 2.0 in just one semester for their GPA, they're given an informal warning, and that's what academic warning means. But regardless, through both of these academic intervention programs, we work with students to provide them advocacy and support throughout a variety of university processes. We also give them an opportunity to do some reflection and learn more about themselves. We connect them directly to learning workshops. We also connect them directly to the TutorZone, and we also offer individual academic consultations with a member of our staff. Academic consultations can be really helpful because sometimes students will be experiencing something that's stopping them from being as successful as they want to be, and they're not really sure how to move forward. We are great people in academic enrichment programs to help them be able to move forward. We take this information, we take the information that I'm about to share with you to sort of inform our practices, but you also might be sitting here thinking, William and Mary is an excellent institution. Students struggle academically, but usually, I'm sure you've gotten calls from home when your student got like a B or a C perhaps for the first time, freaking out, feeling like a failure, and they're absolutely not. But we have asked students who've been on academic probation in the past, why do you feel like you struggled academically? And these are the top 5 factors that students gave us. Almost 2/3 of students said they struggled academically because of their mental health. As you can see, almost the same amount of students were really struggling with motivation, low energy, a lack of confidence, as well as difficulty managing time. We take this information and we use it to directly inform our practices in terms of how we work with students, both on an academic intervention level, but also how I train tutors at the TutorZone, right? And to make sure that we are offering things that help students overcome these. And what I always like to share with students is that this list does not include anything that says that a student is not smart enough. This list does not include anything that says that a student is not capable. All of these things, mental health, lack of motivation, low energy, these are things that are a challenge that students might be experiencing, and that it's standing in their way of them being successful the way they want to be. So because of that and knowing this, we're able to then connect students to other resources across campus to try to mitigate some of these factors so that we can get students to a place where they're able to achieve their goals. One of the main ways we do that is by connecting students to the TutorZone. I do oversee the TutorZone, and at the TutorZone, tutors meet with students in a one-on-one setting to help them understand course concepts. And we also help students get organized and prepared for exams, which is key for midterm season right now. And we really use the goal of the TutorZone to guide students as they develop problem-solving skills. This can include asking questions, learning how to do research in a more effective manner, depending on the subject you're in, of course. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about the TutorZone now. Right now, we offer over 200 William & Mary courses. That's a lot of classes. Most of them are intro-level classes, especially in classes that are very popular. Like, for example, everyone has to take a math class at some point. Calculus, which is Math 111, is a very popular class. Other classes that are sort of more notoriously challenging at William & Mary, we offer those classes as well. And we are lucky because we are able to be flexible in terms of if there's sometimes more than a couple of students who are really looking for help in geology, for example, say we don't happen to have a geology tutor at the moment, I have the ability to reach out to faculty members and get in touch with a geology tutor and get someone onboarded and trained, which is really nice. So we are flexible in that we can meet demands that way. Every year we provide on average 3,500 hours of peer tutoring. So there's a lot of students going to the TutorZone for a lot of different needs. We do employ around 75 tutors every year. Being a tutor at the TutorZone is a paid campus job, which is great. Students are eligible to apply based on their grades after they've been at William & Mary for a full year. So if any of you are parents of new students, either freshmen or transfer students, you're not eligible quite yet, but possibly down the line. Right now, we are offering appointments at the TutorZone both in person and virtually via Zoom, depending on sort of the tutor's comfort level, as well as giving students that flexibility as well. The TutorZone is also nationally certified as an international tutor training program through CRLA, which is the College Reading and Learning Association. Once our tutors achieve their CRLA different levels of certification, the cool thing about it is that it's actually a lifetime certification, and it basically says that our tutors are certified tutors and they carry that with them for the rest of their life in any country that they choose to live in. So it is a great perk of working with the TutorZone. I just think it's important that you know who receives tutoring, because I started this presentation talking about students who struggle academically in terms of more academic probation side of things, but you don't have to be struggling academically to go to the TutorZone. In fact, in the spring 2019 semester, the average semester GPA of students who use the TutorZone was a 3.21, which is a pretty good GPA. Most of our students do come for tutoring in STEM subjects. Students come to the TutorZone at any point in their academic career, not just when they first arrive here and not just when they're really struggling. My favorite statistic on this list is that actually over a quarter of students who used the TutorZone this semester made the Dean's List. And it's not easy to make the Dean's List. As you can see here, these are some of the top 6 majors that students came to us from. So biology is always a subject that students come to us from, as well as neuroscience and kinesiology, econ, international relations, and chemistry. And these are just the top 6, and they fluctuate a little bit every year. We also had students who represented 8 different first or home languages apart from English come to the TutorZone. And I think that that does a really good job of speaking to the effectiveness of the tutors who work there. I tell you what we offer and what we do, but I think it's also important to know what students say about the TutorZone, because I can sit here and tell you all these things all day long, but if students don't say we're practicing what we're preaching, then what's the point? 98% of students said that the TutorZone has been a beneficial service to them. 96% said it increased understanding of the subject matter resulting from the tutoring, and 97% noted their tutor encouraged independent learning strategies. For those of you who maybe aren't so familiar with different data, I would be concerned if any of these numbers were 100% because that would mean my data was wrong. So it's good that it's close to 100, but not quite there. Beyond subject-specific tutoring, we also offer a couple of different things. And one of our newer programs that we've actually expanded pretty significantly this semester is academic coaching from graduate students. So while the tutors at the TutorZone are undergraduate students who are offering help in courses they've taken and that they've been successful in, we also employ graduate students to serve as an academic coach for undergraduate students. The academic coaching program is really designed as an additional support system through a mentoring type of relationship with a graduate student. Students come to the academic coaching program for a variety of reasons. Commonly, they'll come because they want to help building executive functioning skills, because they might feel overwhelmed by classes. They want to be able to organize their time better, use their time better. And some students come into the academic coaching program because they're really looking for someone to hold them accountable and to help make sure that they have support as they go through the steps of working towards their academic goals. And again, this is a newer program and we expanded it this year, and so far so good. We're really excited about how everything has been going. We also offer free time management consultations at the TutorZone. Some of our tutors have been additionally trained as time management consultants, and these are popular at any time in the semester. Time management consultations can be helpful for figuring out how to set up a routine for students who might be new to William & Mary. It can be helpful for that. Some students go to the TutorZone when they have a really busy week coming up and they're not sure how to use their time and they want to use their time effectively. And some students go for they sit down, they have an overwhelming to-do list and they don't know where to start. A free time management consultation is a great option for any of those situations. We also offer strategic learning workshops. These are available by request, and we have not had one be requested for a good year and a half at this point, but we still offer them in case anyone is interested. I expect that as we move more into in-person and more away from Zoom, that these will become popular once again. So we'll find out. So how do you get it? How do you actually book an appointment at the TutorZone? Students can just go to wm.edu/tutors and follow the big green schedule tutoring appointment button at the bottom of the screen. Students do need to book an appointment in advance. The nice thing about the scheduling platform is that students can choose the class they need help in. The schedule then auto-populates with the tutors who offer that class, and then students can book an appointment at a time that works for them and for their schedule. From there, they have the ability to choose right now, do I want to meet with my tutor in person via Zoom, or do I want to meet in person in the TutorZone? So far this semester, interestingly enough, most of our appointments have been in person in the TutorZone, but a good number have been online as well. So I think students are really appreciating the option. You will see on this screen right now that there is a cost associated with a tutoring appointment, and I think it's important that you know why. The TutorZone is overseen by us in Academic Enrichment Programs and by the Dean of Students Office, and it operates on a financial self-sustaining model. So by that, I mean any money that we make is the money that we are able to use to pay tutors, that we are able to use to get supplies for the TutorZone specifically as well. So it is a financially self-sustaining model. And we also use any additional income to go straight into our TutorZone scholarship. I think that's my next slide. Yes, okay. We do have a scholarship available for students. We provide financial assistance for students to use the TutorZone at no cost. This is a way that we can still pay our tutors, but also not let financial backgrounds be any kind of barrier for students as they work to achieve their academic goals. So that you know, we have seen actually a 40% increase in students reaching out for help, and I mean that from a financial perspective. So more students are using the scholarship now ever than before, and I think that that probably has a lot to do with the pandemic and the aftermath of that. But we'll see how this changes moving forward. This is just where we're at this year. And last year, we were able to cover all tutoring costs for more than 225 students, which is pretty amazing. We are really lucky in that not only do we get a little bit of money going into the scholarship fund from our self-sustaining model, but we also fundraise for it every year for One Tribe, One Day and year round, actually. We are also very lucky and fortunate to have the support of the Parent and Family Fund to cover and go towards the scholarship cost as well. And covering costs for those 225 students would not have been possible without them. So for the family members who might be here this evening from the Parent and Family Fund, just thank you so much for everything that you've done. I really appreciate it, and so do our students. I'm going to talk a little bit more about resources now that you can send your students in a text message or in an email once this presentation is over if you want to, particularly if your student right now is talking about being stressed for midterms and feeling overwhelmed, things like that. And these live on the main academic enrichment page. So you can just go to wm.edu/academic enrichment, or you can Google William & Mary Academic Enrichment, and you'll come to our resources page. And I'm going to spend just a couple of minutes talking to you about our two most popular resources that we have available on this page. The first one that we have available that's really popular is our semester planning guide. This is built specifically for every week of this semester for the 2021 semester, even though this screen share only goes through the end of October. And the way this works is that students will put a class in each of the columns. Sometimes they put a goal section, sometimes they'll have personal life. If a student is an athlete, they might have a game schedule column as well. It really and truly is up to the student. And the way this works is students then put in what we call big ticket items for their classes or for a job or a game if they're a student athlete. And once you do that for all of your classes, you wind up with something that looks like this. This is an example from a real student schedule. I believe this is from spring 2019 or spring 2020, and it gives you an idea of what I'm talking about with the semester planning guide. As you can see, the first couple of weeks of classes, there wasn't anything really big going on. The student was able to sort of ease into the semester. And then week 4 is when we started having a couple of things going on with different drafts and logs being due, and also an anniversary in the student's personal life. And then week 7 was midterms week. There was a draft due, a quiz, 2 midterm exams, and parents are coming into town on Wednesday, smack in the middle of all of it. It's pretty typical for students right before a break to have a lot of tests and exams and things due like this. And it's helpful to have it all laid out because this student was then able to figure out, okay, so I have this composition draft due on Monday, but I don't actually have to write that in class. I can work on this ahead of time. So this student chose to actually go ahead and put that draft together at the end of week 5. So they didn't even have to worry about it for a while. And then for the 2 midterm exams being on Wednesday and Thursday, having that draft done and out of the way gave the student more time to focus on those 2 midterm exams, and then also prioritize those above the quiz 3 that the student had on Friday this week. So once parents arrived on Wednesday, the student was able to say, I'm so sorry, I have another midterm tomorrow, but I'll see you later after dinner with their parents, and got through the week that way. I also recommend that students do this because it can be helpful if, say, composition draft 2 wasn't a draft, it was a midterm, or it was an in-class essay or something like that. Having foresight like this can give students the information they need to potentially talk to their professor about an extension or an alternative due date. Asking a professor for an extension on an assignment 24 hours in advance usually doesn't go so great, but something well enough in advance to show foresight and planning is usually a much better plan to go with. Another really popular guide that we have up right now is our midterms preparation guide. Students can also download this on our website. They can also book a time management consultation to work through either of these with a time management consultant if they want. We are in midterm season, and while the example on the previous schedule had the student with their midterms condensed in a week, midterm season at William & Mary is much broader, and it's very different from any academic institution I've ever experienced personally. I have had students tell me that they had a midterm the first week of October, and I also have students who are taking midterms today and right up until fall break, as well as soon as we come back from fall break. So this preparation guide actually goes through the end of October. And the way it works is that students can use it to plot out when they have their midterms, be it a test or a project or a presentation or a paper or something like that. And once they have that date plotted on this guide, they can work backwards from there and plan out what they're going to study and what they're going to prepare when. There's a variety of other resources available on our website, like a 2-week paper planning guide that students can use and implement in this. And if at any point this gets overwhelming for students, they can always reach out for help. There are additional academic resources available for students outside of the TutorZone and outside of academic enrichment programs. Some of the popular ones include the Writing Resources Center, which is absolutely wonderful. It's right next to the TutorZone in Swim Library. The Writing Resources Center is also connected to the History Writing Resources Center, as well as the Graduate Writing Resources Center, if any of you happen to be families of students who are in a graduate program here. We also have a variety of different academic student clubs that could be really helpful resources for students on campus. As far as academic departments, there are some departments that will actually host different tutoring sessions from graduate students or upperclassmen students throughout the semester. I believe the math department does it on Thursday evenings or Friday evenings or something like that. And any student can go to those for any reason. And then I also have the counseling center on here because, as we saw earlier when I was sharing, reasons why students struggle academically at William and Mary, mental health is a big part of that. And so not only do I mean the counseling center as a resource for students for more therapeutic reasons, but also because the counseling center hosts workshops. And some of their workshops deal directly with academic stress, test anxiety, things like that. And students get information in their inbox via student happenings and different announcements about those workshops as well. And the last thing that I want to leave you with, especially as we get closer to fall break, I think that as students get a bit of a break from classes, they may have sort of the ability to take a bit of a deep breath, which I really hope so, because this semester, I think, has surprised some people with the return to campus and with sort of experiencing academic stress in a setting like this again. And I want you to know that as their families, you are your student's safe person. So if your student is calling you and upset and frustrated that they're not doing as well as they want in their classes, I want you to keep in mind that they're not necessarily feeling that way 24/7, but that they're calling you because they know that they can say that to you and not be judged and to be safe. Of course, if your student reaches out to you and is upset and looking for resources, you can share any of the information that I've shared with you this evening. And I also just want to leave you with a little anecdote. I am the person who hires new tutors, and in every interview I've ever had with a student, I always ask them, have you experienced academic disappointment and what did you do to move on? And I have never had a single William and Mary student tell me they've never experienced academic disappointment. So I think that speaks to failure and struggling and not meeting your goals as part of the William and Mary experience, because you're not here to not be challenged. The students here are all ridiculously smart and incredibly intelligent and more than capable. And part of that learning and part of that growth is learning how to get back at it when things don't go your way. My last bit of information that I want to share with you, something that I share with students all the time, is there is no such thing as a major or department at William and Mary where the undergraduate average GPA is a 4.0. It just doesn't exist. So again, there is no major where the average student GPA is a 4.0. Students do not all have a 4.0 GPA here. Students do not all have straight A's. Some students do, of course, but not every single student does, even though I think every student here is working towards that. And some students are not necessarily working towards that all the time. If it was me and I was a William and Mary student, my goal would be to just get like a B- or a B in a chemistry class if I found myself in that, because that's not my academic strong suit. And with that, for a little bit of perspective, I am going to release it, and I'm here to answer any questions that you might have. Please don't hesitate to visit our website at wm.edu/tutors to learn more about the TutorZone. Check us out on social media. And if you or your student has any questions, please don't hesitate to email me.
Thank you so much, Claire. There are so many great resources that are available. So I thank you for going over each of those for our families. There are some links in the chat. So some of the resources that Claire was mentioning are available there in the chat for you to explore. And so before we get started with Q&A, if you have questions for Claire, please use the Q&A feature here in Zoom to ask those questions. One question that I want to ask you, Claire, is, you mentioned that we're kind of in this very long haul midterm season for students, and that some of them may have already started, some of them may be starting this week, some of them will continue throughout fall break and after fall break. How can families who maybe haven't heard from their students about how academics are going for them, how can they broach that subject in conversation with their student?
That's a really good question. Oh my gosh. I think sometimes students, especially because students come to William and Mary after they've achieved such academic success at other places, I think sometimes they come here and they go, okay, this is not going the way I want it to do. Or they're taking classes in different departments and different disciplines than they have before. And it's a new academic environment regardless in that situation, right? I think you can ask, just straight up ask like, hey, how's that class going? Or how are your classes going? How are your professors? How are your peers in your classes? Are you meeting new people? Are you, getting connected? And I think along the same lines, it can be helpful to say like, it's okay if you're not doing so great right now. Like it's okay to be struggling right now because we are still at the beginning of the semester in terms of like, we haven't hit the halfway point yet. I also think it's helpful to know and helpful to share with students possibly that students get like midterm grades that are not really grades around the midterm mark. It's a little bit confusing and students can get confused about that. But most of the time, if a student gets a midterm grade that is more marginal or unsatisfactory, which probably means they're not meeting their academic goals, they still have time to improve. And most students do actually go on to improve upon their midterm grades. So even if students feel like they're not doing so great right now, it can be helpful just to have a reminder of semester's not over yet. You still have quite a bit ahead of you. And while that might be exhausting, you can still do it. 60 or something on a midterm is not going to necessarily crash your grade for the entire semester. Always talk to your professor too, is great advice.
That is wonderful advice. And I think you reminded me of something, which is families may be thinking in their heads now, well, if they're not talking to me about their grades, maybe I can just go on to Parent Proxy and look. I think now is a really good time, and we talked about this at orientation, to revisit those conversations that you had before the semester about what access you have to your students' information. So now is a good time to just verify that you have that access and to have that conversation again of, I know we're in midterm season, and we discussed at the beginning of the semester that I'd be able to log on and see your grades. Is that something you're still comfortable with? Because I know that sometimes after midterms, if they don't go as well as the student had hoped, they may take away that access. And now is a good time to have one of those proactive conversations with your student about what that looks like, so that you're not surprised if you log on and you're not able to see grades. So I have a couple questions here, and feel free to continue sending your questions into the Q&A feature. How does my student request coaching or consultation?
Ooh, great question. So academic coaching, and thank you for asking because I meant to say this and I forgot. Academic coaching is a program that students have to be placed into, and it does require a referral. A referral can come from another partner on campus. We frequently get them from student accessibility services, from care support services, athletics, faculty members. Also, I can be a referral for a student. That's pretty common. So a referral sounds very formal, but it's really not. The reason we require that to be in the program is to make sure that it's a good fit for the student and for what they're looking for their goals. Students can email tutorzone@wm.edu and say, I'm interested in talking with someone about the academic coaching program. I think it might be good for me, and we can take it from there. Beyond that, in terms of the consultations for time management, you can actually book a time management consultation on the same scheduling platform as our tutoring is available. So students can go straight to wm.edu/tutors, click on the schedule an appointment button and log into our scheduling platform. And then instead of choosing a class that they're looking for help in, they can choose, I think it's called 1 hour free time management consultation, something like that. And then they can book it just from there at a time that works for them. Good question.
Thank you. I'm going to put that link here in the chat directly. So if you need to send it to someone, it is here in the chat.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, our next question is, can you speak to resources and tutoring specific to foreign languages?
Ooh, great question. I'm so glad you asked. Last year and this year are a little bit different than normal. So I just want to say this with that caveat. We do have, I believe, 8 different foreign languages offered at the TutorZone, and that is expanded upon what we normally have offered in the past. Typically, foreign language departments will offer and have students who are called international foreign language fellows. And unfortunately, that program has been put on halt for a little bit, just on pause, but it is coming back in fall 2022. So foreign language departments are not necessarily at the same level of offerings as they might normally have. And because of that, like I said, we've expanded our offerings for foreign languages. I know I just added Japanese to the TutorZone 2 weeks ago, possibly. And we've got Latin, German, of course, Spanish and French covered because those tend to be popular classes and popular subjects, but that's a great resource. There might also be graduate students who are working on advanced degrees in those foreign languages. And if a student is looking for help on something more specific or maybe not an intro level class that we might not necessarily offer at the Tutor Zone, asking their professor about, is there a grad student I can get connected to, or maybe another upper class student, those are great resources as well, because the professors in that department are going to know so much more about it too. Good question.
Thank you, Claire. Someone asked in the chat how you can get access to see your students' academic records, and that is through the parent proxy process. I will mention again that this is something that your student will have to grant you access to because their academic records are FERPA protected. And so that's something that your student will have to log on to their Banner account and grant you access to. But that link there in the chat will give you step-by-step instructions on how to log into parent proxy. And then there you'll be able to see that academic record information. So it's a great question. Okay. So I have a specific question kind of to software, which you might be able to help with, Claire. We'll see. Do you have any resources to help a student learn to use the MATLAB software?
Ooh, I am not familiar with the MATLAB software in the slightest, but I could be wrong, but I believe that is specific to a couple of different courses. I think that there are graduate students who can offer support services for students in terms of like, can somebody help me get more comfortable with this? But I also would recommend in that situation, professors' office hours. Outside of that, there might be students who work at the library who can help with that. There are a variety of centers at the library, like there's a data analysis lab and different things like that where students might be able to be helpful as well. But that does not come up specifically in the Tutor Zone, unfortunately. So that's the most help that I can offer there.
Okay, I see a question here. When you look in proxy, I only see final grades and not midterm grades. There's a possibility that midterm grades are not reported in parent proxy. So that's something we can double check, and I'll send out in the email recap and let you know there. It might be possible that you only see the midterm grades, which is all the more reason to have a conversation with your student about midterm grades and just ask them about that and see if that's something they're comfortable disclosing to you. Because if you're only able to see final grades, then there's a chance that maybe something came up in midterms that maybe could predict what final exam grades are going to look like. And so that's always another great point and suggestion to have that conversation with your student openly. And I'm all about communication over here when it comes to these topics. And so that would be my best recommendation there.
And I would also note that midterm grades are not up yet in terms of like being put in the system. The midterm grading period is, I believe, October 11th through 30th. So we're still at the very beginning of that. And there's a difference between a grade a student got on a midterm exam versus their midterm grades. So midterm grades is sort of a progress check of how you're doing in the class. And it's something faculty will put up into the system. I'm not sure, like Heather said, what that access will look like, but you should not actually see midterm grades right now. So regardless, that is correct.
Okay, I'm not seeing any other questions, so we're going to go ahead and close out here. So thank you, Claire, for joining us this evening and sharing all of this information. The session was recorded and it will be shared via email afterward, and it's also going to be available on our YouTube channel and also on our website. So thank you, Claire, again so much for joining us. Thank you to all of our families who have joined us this evening, and we will see you at our next session. Good evening, everyone.